Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's our pleasure to have and to get invited by Telecommunication Regulatory Authority to deliver one of the very important topics, research methodology, to the audience today. My name is Dr. Manar Abu Talib, the Research Outreach Chair at University of Sharjah. I'm also the coordinator for the Open UAE Research and Development Group. Let me brief you a little bit about University of Sharjah, about the research that is conducted. University of Sharjah is one of the top-ranking universities, ranked as number 3 according to Times Higher Education in the UAE. It is number 1 in the citation in 2020. We develop and produce a high-quality number of publications that are scopused in journals and conference papers, and we have several patents. We are very active locally and internationally. We work with organizations inside the UAE. Telecommunication Regulatory Authority is one of them in some of the research projects related to blockchain and IoT with the CODI led by Majid Al-Madloom. Today in the research methodology workshop, we will walk you through very important topics so that we raise the awareness about how to conduct quality research. I will introduce my colleagues, Dr. Ali Bounasif, who is the Assistant Dean for the Graduate Studies at University of Sharjah, also part of the Open UAE Research and Development Group, and Engineer Omnia Muhammad, who is also working in the research group. The floor is yours, Dr. Ali. You can start.
Thank you, Dr. Manar. Assalamu alaikum jami'an. First, I would like to thank TRA for giving me this opportunity to deliver the research methodology workshop. So my name is Ali Bounasif. I'm Associate Professor of Computer Engineering. And my research interest is artificial intelligence. I work with applications of artificial intelligence. As professors, we always do research. This is the main part of our work, is conducting research, besides teaching some courses. So this is one of the most important courses we teach our students, especially master students and PhD students who want to conduct research. So today, I will first introduce our agenda. We will define research. We will talk about the research process. Third point, we will talk about how to select good research papers when you talk about topics and you need information, how to search for trusted information. This is important. How to read research papers. Now, internet has millions or billions of research papers. How if you have 15, 20 research papers about one topic, how you read them. How to conduct research. If you plan to conduct research, how are you going to do this? Ethics is in research. This is very important topic. As we know, we always have good manners in everything. Also, we should have good manners in ethics, in research. So we know that some people, for example, steal something. Also in research, sometimes there is stealing. So we'll talk about this and to avoid such acts. How to publish your work. If I have conducted research, I have good work, how to publish it, in which journal or conference. So since we talked about the ethics in research, I would say I have slides 3 to 7 are based on the course materials by Dr. Walsman and Dr. Morin. And slides 13 to 24 are also modified slides, are based on Ingroli, and Jared Coburn. So inshallah, we will have about 45 minutes, and we'll leave some time for your questions. So first of all, when you say this is a course about research methodology, so what is research? Research is a systematic collection. Now here, systematic means it's in a formal way. It's not random, opposite to random. And processing and interpreting of information. So we have information, and I need to understand this information. I need to process this information in order to understand this and come up with our findings. We call it findings or outcomes that will be interested. So this is mainly research. You know now, like for example, an example in TRA is these days 5G, let's say, mobile system, 5G, and maybe they are talking about 6G. If you're talking about 5G, they started research in the 5G, by the way, long time ago, several years ago. So what is 5G? How are we going to have 5G? What are the requirements for our mobile phones? This is all about research, for example. And we do research not only to hide it. Eventually, we have to publicize our findings, our research. So that's why when you say discoveries are communicated to the larger scientific community. This is why when I say how to publish your work, when I conduct research and have very good outcomes, I have to let everybody know. But there are some ways in order to do this. Some companies, they do patents, for example. Others, they don't do patents. They just publish their work in journals or books or conferences. Now, the research process. First of all, research starts with a small question or identify a problem. Let's say just an example, again. For example, our mobiles have antennas. Even now you don't see the antenna, it's hidden. But if you had the mobile, let's say 20 years ago in 2000, or 1995, 1996, there were, you see that the mobile has an antenna and you use the antenna. These days, the antenna is hidden. So for example, this is when you start as a question, what should be the shape of the antenna for 5G? For example, should the antenna be different if the signal is 4G or 5G? How can we design an antenna that works for 4G and 5G? So this is, we have to start with just a question. So this is, if you see, this is a small question. Designing an antenna for 4G and 5G. Believe it or not, this question, you might lead to hundreds of publications just from this, how to design, for example, good antenna. And when you say how to design good antenna, maybe some people are interested to minimize the power. They want the battery of the mobile to last longer. Maybe others, they want stronger signal. They designed stronger signal, but it will not last too much. So this is what I mentioned about designing. This is a question or a problem, how to design an antenna that works for 4G and 5G. This is just a research question that might lead for hundreds of publications. So after you start with a question or a problem, then you start a clear statement. You have to define the problem. You have to put the objective. You have to put the scope. The problem then is divided into sub-problems. Again, once you start with a problem, let's see how to divide it into sub-problems. Then you will have a plan, how to conduct this, okay? And this plan, we will call it also later as like methodology, how to solve the problem. We have a problem, how to solve it. This is a plan or methodology. We have critical assumptions for sure. Always, we have something called assumptions or limitations. Like, for example, you're talking about antenna, you will say, I have limitation. The length of the antenna cannot be more than 1 centimeter. This is a limitation. You cannot design antenna 5 centimeter and hide it in the mobile, let's say. Then after that, you have to collect data. Data are very important in research, okay? Now, eventually, once you start with a research problem and you do the limitations, you will end up with open research questions. This is how research. Once we publish one paper, then we will start to ask, what about try this? Try to modify this. What's the output? This is another research. This is another research. So one idea will bring many ideas. This is why we say, for example, one student asked me, in this topic, there are thousands of publications. Is there anything left? Yes, always. For any topic, still, there is a room for publication and do research. So first of all, about the research question. As we mentioned, we start with a problem. We started with a topic and start to narrow it down. Start to make it smaller, narrow it down, make it more focused. And then after that, you will end up with a research question. And these research question, when we try to answer this, for sure, there might be more than one research questions. A certain topic, a certain publications might have between 3 and 10 research questions. Here, what I say, research questions means the problem. Because when we do publication, when we do research, we have to do something new. So when you say, I come up with strong research about this, the first question I ask, what's the problem? What's your contribution? What's new? Because if you don't come up with something new, then we cannot publish this research. If I'm just doing an application, for example, somebody learns how to develop a website. This is not research. You now do how to develop website and try to do it, enter username, password. This is not research because this is just an application. So we have to distinguish between I'm doing just an application, I'm doing implementation, I'm using some programming language to do 1, 2, 3, 4. This is just an application, and to distinguish between doing research and try to answer a problem that's not solved yet. Again, this is research. Think about something like our cars. You know that car now 2021. Think about your car, which is, for example, if you have Mercedes 2015, go now to the dealer garage and check, for example, Mercedes 2021. You will see nicer, they will see many options. Why? This is all because of research, by the way. So don't think research only is done in universities or students. No, all companies you know, they do research. Even TRA, they do research. Cars, mobile phones, Microsoft, name any company, and this company has a section called Research and Development, R&D. So research is very important everywhere. Without research, we are not progressing in our life. So as we mentioned, research process is important because you might have a problem, but there might be no solution, but then it's invalid. Okay, so for example, you start with a problem. I want to change again the antenna so that it will be more coverage and less power. Oh, that's very cute, very good. If you can have more coverage in your phone and less power, but tell me, how are you going to solve it? Then you're stuck, you don't have. So somebody might come with a nice problem, but there is no solution for this problem or cannot be solved. There is no methodology. So there's, in this case, this is not research. So it's not only that I have new ideas, I have brilliant ideas. These brilliant ideas should be transformed into outcomes. We call it findings, research findings. How? Again, through the methodology, and then after you say how are you going to solve the problem, then you do implementation, you do results, and we'll talk this after a few slides. Now, we start today, when we start about definition research, we want to start with something called information. And then you say how to process information and collect information. Now, how to collect information? Okay. Now, you can go to Google. Everybody now knows Google, www.google.com. And you can say, for example, what is 5G? Google will give you millions of web pages. But you ask yourself, are these all trusted or not? Another example about COVID-19 these days. You know, every day we hear news about COVID-19. How many rumors are they? There are a lot of rumors. That's not true about COVID-19. For example, many rumors tell you if you take the vaccine, you will die. This is wrong. This is rumor, but you can find this on the internet. So here, when I say selecting good research paper in order to obtain trusted information. So for me, we don't go to just google.com where anybody put whatever he or she wants. If I have a website, I put whatever I want. If you go to google.com, you will get this information. So in order to select good research, I don't go google.com. I go to something called Google Scholar. You see, Scholar. If you search, I give you the link, https://scholar.google.com. Once you go to this, it means you are trying to search for trusted information. Trusted information means this information or these papers are published, and we will see that in a trusted venue. Trusted venue means conferences, books, journal papers. Why we say this is a trusted versus untrusted? Here, we mean by trusted that these publications are refereed. Refereed means people, at least 2 or 3 researchers in the same field have read this publication and approve it. This is why I say Google Scholar is better than Google in general, because Google in general, you can find any topic and published anywhere. So this might be untrusted. Somebody put anything, it's wrong, false information. But when you go to Google Scholar, and Google Scholar, you will see how. So inshallah, Omnia will give you a workshop today, how to work with Google Scholar. But if you see, I went to Google Scholar, I put 5G tutorial. I misspelled the word tutorial. If you see here, tutorial is spelled incorrectly. It's wrong. Look, Google Scholar corrected this to me and said, showing results for 5G tutorial. Tutorial means I need to learn more about 5G. Again, you can go to Google in general, www.google.com, and search what is 5G or tutorial 5G. You will get millions of answers. Here, instead of google.com, I went to Google Scholar. Once I searched for 5G tutorial, I started to get results. So for example, the first one, if you see here, it's published in IEEE journal. So if you push on it, click on it, and you will see where it's published. At least I see this is IEEE. IEEE is a publisher, trusted publisher. IEEE has several journals and conferences. And most of them are, we say, good quality and high quality. So for example, I trust this 5G tutorial of view standards rather than just go on the internet and just search for tutorial for 5G. Also, if you see the second one, you will see a tutorial on UAV communication for 5G. It's published of Proceedings of the IEEE. This is very good journal. And also it is trusted. Again, trusted here means before it is published here, somebody who is familiar in this topic, expert in this topic, they read and approved this. If you see here at the left, you can check the year. For example, do you want all anytime as checked, or you can say, I need the publications in the last year only, in the last 2 years. So you can say since 2020, since 2017, and so on. So this is an example of how to select information. If you need the trusted information, again, go to Scholar. Don't go to just Google in general. By the way, even Wikipedia, because I know Wikipedia is very good source of information. We all use Wikipedia, but again, Wikipedia is not refereed. This means I can go to now Wikipedia, I go to 5G and I can edit anything. So again, in research, we try to avoid Wikipedia. We try to avoid Wikipedia. We ask our researchers, again, go and select trusted information from Google Scholar or from Scopus. Second is called scopus.com. Again, Scopus is a website here, a portal to search for journals or conference or workshop. It is more narrow than Google Scholar. So you can say in general anything in Scopus, you can find it in Scholar, but not vice versa. So if you go to a topic in Google Scholar, you might say 1 million. You go to Scopus, you might say 100,000. Okay, so 10%. But Scopus also is a trusted way to search. The only problem here, Scopus is not open for everybody. It's like Google Scholar. Google Scholar, if you type scholar.google, anywhere in the world, you will get the website and you can search. Scopus only is not free. So for us, because our IP address, our internet from University of Sharjah, it's free for us. So this might not be free for you, Scopus, but again, if it's free, it's also very good because in Scopus you choose, for example, I need only journals or you need only conference. Conference, when you go and do presentation and publish your work in a conference, usually conference in communication about 5-6 pages. Journal, it's an extended research like of conferences. So you can have journals start from 10 pages until let's say 30 pages or 40 pages. So it's more details, more experiments. So that's why most researchers are trying to publish in journals more, not conferences. Also, you can choose a starting year and search. Also, inshallah, Omnia, Engineer Omnia will give you a little bit how to publish in Scopus. This is just an example, again, that about a paper. And in general, now you have a paper and you will say how to read a paper. Reading a paper is different from reading a story. And also when you publish a paper is different from publish a story or an essay. Like, for example, when we were in high school, we learned that in order to publish an essay, You do, for example, introduction, then you do body, then you do conclusion, something like that. Here, if you want to publish a paper, it should have some sections. So for example, we start always with an abstract. Abstract is summarize the whole paper in about 250 words. So even the paper is, let's say, 20,000 words, we summarize it in 250 words. Then after abstract, there is something called introduction. And after introduction, maybe literature review. Literature review means what other people worked in this, what other people worked. And then you have to show what's your contribution, what are you doing as in you. Then after that, as we mentioned, methodology is very important to mention. What is your methodology? After you define the problem in the introduction, for example, you define the methodology. How are you going to solve it? Then results or model design, depends. Results, to do experiments, conduct results, try to discuss the results and come up with conclusion. Now, so again, in general, if you see, this is an example about a paper, which they look everything like, most papers, they look like this, but there might be some differences. So if you see in the top, there is the name of the journal, then the title of the paper. After, below the title of the paper, there are some, the name of the authors. And we start with abstract. You see here to the right, something very important when I told you about trusted information refereed. Look at this. It said received for December 2019, revised to January. So this means this article was submitted in December 2019, and after 1 month, it was accepted. So it took 1 month for reviewers to read it and give some comments. And this is very good. In some other papers, it takes about sometimes 1 year under review. Many journals take about 1 year in order to publish. It goes to rigorous revision. You start with introduction, then you start with, again, materials and method. This is, for example, the methodology. Results and discussion. What are the results? And discuss the results. And eventually the main conclusions. This is very important. Now, again, how to read research papers. In general, if you see here, many people start with reading the abstract. Okay, but this is not recommended. It is highly recommended to start with introduction, not abstract. Abstract is just 250 words that summarize, again, maybe 10,000 words. So this might not be enough. If abstract is not very well written, you might not get the contribution of the paper. So you read the abstract and nothing. So that's why it is recommended to start reading the introduction. You can leave abstract to the end, because in the paper, the last thing we write is the abstract, by the way. You see here, abstract is the first section in the paper, but it's the last section that's written. So, we start again with the paper, reading the introduction first, and then after that, you keep the abstract to the end. Now, how to conduct research? As we mentioned, we choose a topic. And after you choose a topic, you go to Google Scholar or Scopus. Then you choose the duration of publications. You might be interested in all published papers. You might be interested only in the last 10 years, 5 years. Conduct a systematic review This is what I call it systematic review, is different from literature review. Literature review in general, when you go to search for a topic, after you search for a topic, you get, for example, 50 papers. You read the 50 papers and you summarize. You say, I found 50 publications. This is a summary of each publication. This is called literature review. Now, literature review is good, and it will allow you to understand, for example, what is in the research, what's in the literature. But here, when we say systematic review, is more than literature review. It's called systematic. So there are a framework that you follow to conduct literature review. In the systematic review, you raise research questions, you identify the problem, and after you finish, you will have the problems. So this is the difference between systematic and literature, because literature review, you might say, I have 50 publications that talk about, let's say, designing an antenna for 5G. 50 publications. I read 50 publications and I understand them. This is literature review. But after you read 50 publications, what's the new problem? You don't know. But if you conduct a systematic review, the systematic review here is very important that you identify the problems. So after you finish systematic review, you will know what are the problems. You will have something called research gap. Research gap means research problems have not answered yet. It's your chance now to answer them. And this is your contribution or your findings. And inshallah, we will give you material about how to conduct systematic review. This is, inshallah, part of the workshop. We will give you details. So after you conduct systematic review, you identify research gaps. Then after you have the problem, you collect your data. Now here, data is a big problem. Many researchers are struggling because they don't have enough data. This is an example, again, COVID-19. Even in our research group, we have big project on COVID-19. But again, what's the struggles? What's the main struggle? We don't have enough data. You know, sometimes data are not public. University hospitals might have data, but not publishable. So that's why when you want to conduct research, this is very important to think about it. Do you have data or not? If you don't have data, can you purchase data? Sometimes you can purchase data. Sometimes data is not available. It's available somewhere, but not published. So that means you have to contact this and ask them if they give you this data or not. Sometimes they give you, sometimes not. They say, this is private data, we use it to our research. Most companies do this. They don't publish their data. But this is, again, you have to think about it. Now, again, after that, identify a problem. So you have research gaps, you have problems, but this problem in the process, after you go in the different stages, it's refined. You have this problem refined, and you might change the problem a little bit. You can change it. Then after the problem is clear, you have to write a methodology plan. How are you going to solve the problem? Then you have data, you have a problem, you have the methodology, you have to conduct experiments. You will use computer for experiments or other things. You might have surveys, for example, sometimes. Then after experiments, you write the results. After you write the results, you explain the results. You compare with the state-of-the-art models. This is very important. I have a new model, let's say in artificial intelligence, to know if a patient has COVID-19 or not. But there are hundreds of other models. You have to compare your model with other models. Otherwise, they will tell you what's new. After that, you compare, you highlight your contributions, your findings. This is new. You say, I have research, and this is new in research. Okay. Last, in papers, you have to do citations and references. When we, again, write a paper, we use references to build on. These references, it's better to use a tool. Also, part of this workshop, we will give you slides, how to use Mendeley to manage your citations. It is a step-by-step slides. We'll teach you how to create an account in Mendeley, how to download it, and how to use it. This is very important because when you do research, you need to have references. References have to be systematic. Okay? There are many styles, more than 100 styles and references. So Mendeley is important. It's not essential in research. Many people, they do research without using this Mendeley, but it's highly recommended. This will help you a lot in managing your references. So inshallah, Mendeley will be part of this workshop, will be delivered to you. Ethics is very important, again, because I'm conducting research, I have finding, I have to be honest. Here, ethics means you have to be honest. Don't try to do misconduct. So scientific misconduct, or we call it academic misconduct. It's like, again, stealing or do something. Is fabrication, falsification, or plagiarism in proposing, performing, or reviewing research. This is all about, again, called ethics. So first of all, this is, again, plagiarism. Plagiarism, like you read an idea somewhere and you claim it's your idea. This is plagiarism. This is not allowed. You will lose your job if you do plagiarism. You have to be honest. If I found a paper, if I found, for example, an information somewhere else, I have to say it, okay? Then fabrication. I fabricate the results. I change the results. This is also false. This is plagiarism. Misleading authorship, like who are the authors in the publications. Poor data storage and retention. If I don't store the data well, if I change the data, everything will be changed. You know that all results based on data. If I change the data, everything will be changed. Faulty data, again, gathering. Data is very important, how to correctly collect data and how to interpret data. Sneaky publications practice. So again, plagiarism, as we mentioned, that you steal an idea, you take an idea from somewhere else. So this is, again, you cannot copy paste from the internet. You have to rephrase and cite other work. You have to say, this idea is from this author, okay? Again, fabrication, like this guy, he was jailed because he changed the data. He created data. We call it sometimes cooking the data, cooking. So he cooked his own data so that he said, this is an interesting outcomes. This is, again, wrong. You can be in prison as this guy. We talked about data. Very important how to treat data, how to clean data. When you collect data, this is called dirty data. Dirty data, how to clean it. Okay, this is very important because if data is not clean, data has problems, then everything else we have problems. Authorship, for example, if I write an publication, who will be the author? Anyone who contributes to the publication should be an author. And we will talk about these contributions. So in order to be a co-author, that means you are contributed in at least two in this. Either you participate in writing the manuscript, the paper, the publication, or to review, like we are professors. Students give us publications, we read, we give comments. You share in the concept and the design or the methodology. You participate in how to collect data, how to analyze data, how to conduct statistical analysis, for example. Okay, so this is in general. In general, in science and engineering, we should not have more than 6 authors on our publications. If we have more than 6 authors, we need to justify. Now, authorship problems. One is gift authorship. Somebody who did not contribute, I put him as a co-author. This is wrong. Like, I want to please my supervisor. My supervisor has nothing to do in my research. He did not even read it. He doesn't know anything about it. I put my supervisor as a co-author. This is wrong. And the same on the other hand, ghost authorship. Somebody who contributes a lot, but I say, no, you are not a co-author. This is also unethical. These are only unethical. Sneaky publication practice also. So for example, the publications of the student thesis should be recognized as student work. Another sneaky practice, like I write 2 publications that are very similar and try to submit them at the same time to different journals, but at the same time so that nobody knows about the other one. This is also unethical. You cannot submit the same publication twice or more than once. Sanctions. What will happen if you do unethical unethical behavior, or you do academic misconduct? Sanctions: freeze your job, reduce your job. You might be demoted. You might be fired from your job. Many professors were fired because of plagiarism. Okay, some people might file a lawsuit for your institution, not only you. For example, I'm at University of Sharjah. Somebody might file a lawsuit for University of Sharjah if I do plagiarism. So I will be in problem. My institution will be in problem. Faculty are responsible for students. Now, I'm a faculty member. I'm a professor. My name is on the paper. If my student committed plagiarism, it's also my responsibility. I'm also responsible. So I have to be careful also about my researchers. If you are a supervisor, your name on the publication, so you have to follow up. You have to make sure there is no plagiarism, because eventually you are accountable and you are responsible. Now, why we do it in general? Why people do plagiarism? They want to obtain external funding, pressure of the job that you need to publish at least 1 publication per year. So I go and steal others' idea. I need to graduate. Okay, so this is for example. So again, don't do plagiarism. Don't have academic misconduct, because eventually you will be in trouble, you and your work. Now, how to publish your work? This is the last 2 slides. After I have a good paper, I can publish in a good papers in journals or conferences. So I can choose high quality journals, and I can choose high quality conferences to publish my work. People in the area they know. So for example, I work with artificial intelligence. I know the best journals in artificial intelligence. I know the best conferences in artificial intelligence. You can publish your work as open access or non-open access. Open access means it's for free. Sorry. Anyone in the world can see your publication, but open access, you have to pay. So these days, as an average, it's about 5,000 dirham. I pay to publish my work in an open access journal. Okay, 5,000 dirham. But the good, anyone in the world can see. Non-open access, I don't pay, but it's not accessible for everybody. Only if your institution has subscription. If your institution has subscription, then it is available for you. If not, it's not available for you. So this is an option again for if I go open access or not. So thank you very much. As we promised, 45 minutes, and we will leave 15 minutes for your questions before Engineer Omnia starts. Okay, so I'm waiting now for your questions. If you have any questions about anything we mentioned about the research methodology, about how to conduct research, how to publish, if you have questions about plagiarism, if you are not sure, this is very important. So while, for example, waiting for your questions, we'll give you a story about plagiarism. One of the students, what happened, he took an idea from another researcher and he copied paste as it is. So he copy paste and then he said, for example, this is from this author. And this is also not acceptable. You cannot copy paste, for example, one whole page and you say even this is from the other author. So copy paste is not allowed. So what we have to do is to have to rephrase. So you read the idea, you understand it, you write it in your own words. Once you write it in your own words, this is your phrase. And then you do citations. Now, sometimes I cannot, for example, write in my own word. Sometimes I have a very well, for example, definition. For example, what's the definition of 5G? Then in this case, there is no problem. You can say John Smith, for example, defined 5G as, and put it in double quotation. So if you want to quote somebody, just put this in double quotation and then reference. So double quotation and reference, you are telling me that somebody else what said. This is very important. Other than that, you have to rephrase, not copy paste, and add the reference. This is also important. And again, if I see you did not cite anything, I will assume this is your idea, this is your work. So this is some people, they fall into this plagiarism because again, they don't know. That's why I want everybody here to know how to do this.
Thank you, Dr. Ali. This is very important, the guidelines, and your PowerPoint just served as a roadmap for any researcher, how they can start and conduct a quality research. In case if there is no questions, I would like to ask you two questions. The first one, if we have 6 authors, as you mentioned, how would be the order of the authors? How we define who should goes first, who's second, and does it mean that the order will be affecting the way that people will look at it? So it would be good if you can put some comments on this regard.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Manar. This is very important questions. Like we are 6 people work together and we published a paper. Who should be the first author? Who should be the second? Who should be the third? Now, some rules might differ. Like, for example, in most universities in the West, the senior guy is always the last. Like the senior, the main supervisor of the work. He will say, I'm the last. The last means I'm the senior and you are junior. Start with the junior first. So this is some means, for example, if I'm junior researcher, I might go first, senior will go last. In others, and mainly we define this by the main contributors. So the first one is the main contributor. So what do you mean by main contributor? Maybe he has the idea. He has the idea of the work. He wrote the whole paper. He did, let's say, 90% of the work. This will be the first. Now, in general, people should agree before they start. This is important. We don't finish the whole paper and then you say who will be the first. Always, if you work in a group and you want to do this, agree who will be the first, who will be second, who will be third, And also, you can rotate. Let's say the same group, they will do 3 papers. We can rotate, but take into consideration, again, the one who will work more, he will be first. Some people, again, they don't mind to be last. They will ask to be last. Some people, they will say, even I will contribute more, I won't last. So whatever they agree is okay. Once they agree on an order, that's fine, because eventually all the authors will be contributors. Once your paper is published, you can go to Google Scholar, you will have a name there, and all authors will have the same paper.
Dr. Ali, we started to have 3 questions from the audience. The first one, why aren't students trained well to write their research in the Arab universities? Actually, we do face this at the University of Sharjah, and I'm sure this is a challenge in the UAE universities and specific, and as well as in general in Arab university. So can you just, from your experience, list some reasons why this has happened, that the students are not getting the enough training for writing down a quality research?
Thank you, Dr. Anar. First, I see the problem starts with high school. I will give you an example. My daughter is in high school, and I saw her a few days ago. She was copy-paste from the internet. I really was mad, and I yelled at her. I said, if you are my student, you will get F. This is not allowed. But she said, okay, my teacher doesn't know, and he is okay. So this is, let's say, from the culture, not only from the university. Let's start even from grade 4. You know that these days, all schools, grade 3, grade 4, they give projects for 2 students. Let's teach our kids now. I have a kid grade 4. Don't copy paste. Read, understand, and write. If we have this culture from grade 3, 4, then the problem will be resolved. The problem, students come to first year university, they have this copy paste from high school, they don't know. And this has started here, the problem. Why? Because at the university level, we have tools to check for plagiarism. All the professors, they know, but in the high school, maybe they don't use these tools. Now, the problem becomes more critical in master's and PhD, because you cannot take your master's degree without publication. You cannot take your PhD without publication. Once you publish, here are the problems. You need to write a paper. So in, for example, University of Sharjah, we do tell the students, even from all the grades, do not copy paste. This is plagiarism. We teach them even for undergraduate, but in graduate, in master's, research methodology course is mandatory. All students have to take research methodology course, and we teach these kinds about plagiarism. We tell them, if you do plagiarism, you will lose your job. Also, as I mentioned, I'm a professor, will be a problem if my student commits plagiarism. But this is, I see, it's a culture. Let's try to teach our kids not to do plagiarism when they are young.
This is very good answer, and it's starting from early age, and this being improved in the last years, as we can see, and even in our courses and even in our talks and awareness that happens in the workshops, we always emphasize this. Even inside the courses, there is a big item that talks about plagiarism and how we need to train them. So is there any tools, Dr. Ali, that you could mention them about plagiarism, that the audience, they can have an idea about them?
Yes, now there are some tools, good tools, but they are not for free, and there are some for free. If you go to Google and you can check free tools for plagiarism, you might have some tools that check against the internet only and limited words. But as a university, we have subscription with tools. There is a tool called iAuthenticate. There is a tool called Turnitin. These are very powerful tools that can detect. So if any institution is interested in this, they can subscribe with these 2 tools. There are dealers here in Dubai for these, for example. And again, on the internet, still there is something that, let's say, better than nothing for free tools.
Very good. And there is a question, what should the students do to be experienced researchers? And we know that it's not by day and night they can be experienced researchers. It's a long journey that they start with a beginner and get into some skills, then they get to the experience. But what would be your best advices in this regard, Dr. Ali?
Best advice is just reading publication, reading papers. If you are interested in a topic, you will see there are a lot of papers. When you read and understand and find the contribution of each paper, then here later you will know what do you mean by contribution. Then you will have a scene that this guy, for example, did this, I want to do something different. So reading papers. You can have, as again, journals, they publish issues. Let's say every 2 months, every 3 months, they have a new issue. I go to this new issue and I read on a certain topic. Like you can search again for any topic you like and you select the best journals. And then after that, you read. When you read and read, then you will be a really good researcher. At the same time, you should have good, for example, programming skills. Because in engineering and science, when you talk about methodology, you need to do, you should have some programming skills in order to do this.
I will add another advice, Dr. Ali, to be an experienced researcher, be mentored by experienced researchers, be part of research groups, don't work alone. Try to be surrounded by people who are senior, who you can get the best practices in research and methods in order to always gain new ideas, new skills, in new ways, in new frameworks. Things are happening so fast, especially in the domain of the technology and engineering. So sticking with a good research group and having to work in different directions and different way of thinking, that will definitely enhance the skills to let you become an experienced researcher. We have a good question here again about the plagiarism. If they are asking if they rephrase the sentence, do they still have to cite it, or it's enough just to put the reference at the end of the reference listed?
No, it is important to cite it. So you cannot put any reference at the list of and the references below, and it's not in the text. You cannot have 1, 2, 3, 4, and there is no 4 in the text. So to avoid the plagiarism, again, either you have to put it in double quotes and cite at the end. This is when you are talking about definition of something. If you are talking about general idea, you read, you understand, you write in your own language, rephrase. After you rephrase, you still have to put the citation. If you don't put citation, this means you are claiming this is your work and this is plagiarism. Rephrase and put the citation. This is very important.
Definitely, I fully agree with you, and we shouldn't agree more. This will give all the credits for the other work to be mentioned and cited in the proper way. And this is how it makes it even honest research built based on the other research work. There is 2 questions that are related. One says, one of the biggest challenge is to begin your research, and we know ourselves, Dr. Ali, that always starting a topic or starting a research idea, it's really confirming the question from the audience. It is the biggest challenge. So maybe some advices on that, as well as aligned with the same note. Last few months from the audience, I plan to conduct the research, but the challenge is how to summarize what I have read and choose the best that could help for producing a quality paper.
Okay, thank you very much. So start with the last, how to summarize. Again, this is what we say, systematic review. Inshallah, we will give you guidelines about how to do systematic review. There are a lot of information in the internet. So you have to read how to conduct systematic review, not literature review. Because again, literature review, you just read papers. you summarize, but you don't end up with research questions. So systematic review, it will teach you how to read. So for me, I read the paper, I understand the contribution of each paper, and then I might check the research, the future work of each paper. Future work is very important, that you can, sometimes they can do the research work of other papers. This is important. Other question also, this is important questions, how to find a problem in general. Now, sometimes the supervisor or the professor has some problems. For example, I work with a student on a certain problem. I have in mind some problems. I might tell the student, go and do 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, this is one way, but it doesn't always happen. Mainly, it's the student's responsibility to find a problem. It's students. The supervisor will help you. But as a student, you will tell the supervisor, I'm interested in this topic. You should define the topic. Once you are interested in this topic, the supervisor will guide you, give you directions, read this, read this, read this. After you read, you summarize, you do systematic review, then you will say at the end, what are the research gaps? Then you will have the problem, and this might be your master thesis.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ali. I think this is the end of the questions from the audience. We are very excited to start the practical session with our engineer, Omnia. Omnia, she will walk you through this systematic literature review by the second half of the practical session. And actually, we prepared for you from our Open UE research and the group in how to conduct systematic literature review following clear steps inside this Excel sheet. And we will give it as a gift to you by the end of this session. Omnia, Engineer Omnia, the floor is yours to start the practical session.
Thank you, Dr. Manar. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you for being here in this workshop. I also thank TRA for giving us this opportunity to deliver this workshop. So we're gonna start with the practical part of today's session. Inshallah, we'll provide this tutorial manual for you as well to follow up after the workshop. Okay, as Dr. Ali explained, research methodology is a fundamental procedure for conducting a research work, and it always gives answers to the questions, problem, or the topic that we are interested in. It helps us to have reliable and accurate answers by the end of this research. In this tutorial, we're gonna do a demonstration of how we can get papers from the main research databases, how to actually evaluate these papers, and how to have more knowledge about the domain. Also, we're gonna have a hands-on experience on how to conduct systematic literature review. To start off, let's pick a topic. For example, let's talk about 5G, as it is the trend right now. Let's see what are the challenges and what are the main interests nowadays for the 5G. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go to Scholar, Google Scholar. As Dr. Ali said, this is one of the largest databases for research papers. It is multidisciplinary. That means it has topics from any area in the world, in medicine, engineering, art, even history, anything. It also has research papers, conferences, it has articles, also it has court cases. So it actually has a lot of documents and all in just one click. So it is similar to Google search, however, it is for research papers. So let's type in what we're interested in. Let's, for example, say we're interested in Google network. In 5G networks. Here we can see that Google Scholar provided for us some relevant papers that talked about the same topic. Let's visualize the first one. Here we have a survey of 5G networks. That means that we have already a survey. Maybe this can be a good starting point for our research. As you can see here, this is the title of the research paper. This is these are the authors. This is the journal name. This is the year of publication. This is where it got published. It got published in IEEE. Also, Google Scholar gives some features, such as like we can have like a star here, which means that this paper got saved in the favorite. It tells you how many papers cited this document or paper. As you can see here, it's around 1,600. This is a great number. There are several versions for this paper and different articles. Here we can see other examples as well. But what can this information give us? Like when we saw that it got published in IEEE and it got cited by at least 1,600 people. That means that this paper is considered as a good starting point. It is one of the good references that has been used in the research. And definitely this is a good start for us to understand the 5G network topic. Here we can see other examples as well. But since here the years, as we can see, 2015, 2014, they're all old. So what are the recent topics or recent publications that talk about the 5G network? From the left part, we can use the filter. We can, for example, set it to papers that has been published from 2018 and onward. Now we can see that the results became more recent. We can see the papers here got published in 2020. From the title, we can read sports and health big data system based on 5G network. That means that in recent years, publications became more specific. It's not like about talking about 5G networks in general, it became more specific. So here we can notice the trend that the research field in 5G networks are going to. Here also we can see green mobile networks and so on. As you can notice that some of the authors have underline and some of them don't have. So let's, the authors that don't have underline, that means they don't have profile, and authors who have underlined a line under their names, that means they have a profile. Let's view the profile to see how it looks like. So this is the author. These are the papers that got published by him. And also we can see his latest productivity or the recent, how productive he was in the recent years. Why is it helpful to look at people's profiles or the author's profiles? It will give us indication about what are the topics that this author was interested in and how generally a certain author can use a topic. For example, here, they're all about 5G, but also they are more specific and we can now know the trend. For example, they're talking about very specific topic in networks specifically, but with the technique or technology of 5G. Okay, so what if we want to have a more detailed topic? We want to conduct the research that about, for example, threats. Threats in 5G world. As you can see here, the search is not very, it is good, but it's not very accurate, or maybe this is not what we really wanted. We can always refer to advanced search part to have a more specific searching mechanism. Here, it gives us an opportunity to, or it gives us a control about for the results that we're gonna retrieve. For example, do we want all the words to be included? What are the exact phrases we want to have in our research, in our search term? We can, for example, search about all the papers that have security threats. and the term 5G network. Maybe we're interested in IEEE only, and only the recent years. So this window from advanced search, it gives us more control about on the results that we are going to retrieve. As you can see here, we can have all the publications from IEEE that talked about security threats in 5G. Why this is helpful? Because IEEE, as we said, it is a very well-reputed journal. And of course, all these papers have a good contribution that we can refer to and understand and read. There's something that I use, which is AND. AND is a Boolean operator, and we can always use these kind of operators to have more, to add more keywords to our search. In the manual in page 11, we can see the different operators that we can use. There is AND, OR, and NOT. Just as we say it, like for example, if I'm interested in looking for a security threat in mobile applications, and I want to cover the papers that talked about Android applications as well as iOS. So I want both of them. This is what I want. And to reflect this in my search, I can use the AND command. So here we can use search for security threats and Android applications and iOS applications. So I'm telling Google Scholar to find research papers that have these phrases specifically all in the same document, which means that I'm narrowing down the research to only this area. Maybe I'm interested in finding out the security threats or papers that talked about security threats in Android applications or iOS. So I'm not excluding the papers that talked about one operating system over the other. In this case, I can use the operator OR. And as you can see here, I use a mix of AND and OR. So I definitely want to talk about security threats, but whether the paper talked about this Android application or iOS application doesn't matter. And by this, I'm covering all the research possibilities. Maybe, for example, I'm using, maybe, for example, I want to search for papers that talked about a specific application and didn't talk about the other. I can use the operator NOT. And as you can see here, it excluded the papers that talked about both of the operating system and the papers that talked about Android only. This is only a hypothetical situation, but I'm just telling you that when we use and or, it gives us better results because we're telling Scholar what exactly are the keywords that I want in this search and which papers I want exactly. Google Scholar also provide profiles for researchers. So it provides papers as well as profiles, as we have seen previously in the example. So here we can see another example where we can look at Dr. Ali's profile and see what are the recent publications that he was interested in and also his productivity. Google Scholar allows everyone to have profiles. So it is very easy. The steps will be like to use Google Scholar and then go to My Profile. You should have a Gmail account to create an account in Google in this website. And then you can fill out the form of with your own information, like email, area of interest, and homepage. The good thing about Google Scholar is that it adds automatically the articles for you. Whenever you have an article published online with your name, it will add it automatically to your profile. For For example, if you are interested in a certain search, let's say that we are interested in this, in any paper that will be published in future in IEEE, and it talked about security threats in 5G, we can always use the alert option, and we can insert the keywords that we want, as you can see here, and put in the email that we want to receive notifications in. And by this, we will receive an alert whenever there is a publication in this field. It's very good because you're going to keep yourself up to date with the recent publications. There is another database that is used, also Dr. Hari talked about it, which is Scopus database. It's worth to note that only well-reputed journals and conferences are listed in this database, which means that you will never have a faulty information in this database. It's always papers that got peer-reviewed and are 100% correct. Let's view how we can do the search in this tool. It is similar to Google Scholar, however, it is not open for everyone, as Dr. Ali said. And however, you can always get access from your university. So we can make a search, for example, in the same thing about network 5 networks. We can also use the operators that we talked about and security. Here we can see all the publications that has been published in this field. And for example, if we can see the document's title, where it got published, the year, how many citations did it have. It's basically the same as Google Scholar. However, when you click on the author's profile, you can also visualize what which document did he, which research papers he wrote or she wrote, and what are his research interests. So maybe it can open up for potential collaboration. Here we can see an example of how to search for an author and how to view their author is interested in and how much did this author publish in this topic. So it's always an eye-opener to see what are the recent fields and which topics people are interested in. Another website that can show how well reputed a paper could be or a journal could be is CIMAGO. Let's use this website. We can type in the name of the journal that we want, for example, Internet of Things, and click search. This website could help in two cases. If, for example, you're looking for ideas about where, what are the available conferences and journals that accept IEEE, IoT topics, as well as you can view what are the available journals and see their ranking. For example, here we have IEEE IoT journal. And from this part, we can see the performance of this journal. It's all is the performance over the 5 years was all Q1, which means that it was in the highest rank. Also, the SGR for this paper is 2.6, which is quite high. That means that this paper is a good destination for papers in IoT. Okay, so we viewed what are the databases that can be used and how to get ideas for papers, but how exactly we're going to conduct a research work. This will be the second part of this tutorial session. So let's start first by explaining what is SLR. SLR is a systematic literature review, which means a systematic process for reviewing the available literature work in a specific topic. The good thing about this process is that it is a well-defined process that if you use it in steps, it will help you to get accurate information. It also going to help other researchers to replicate what you have done and finding this and reach to the same findings, which means that it is very accurate, it is very reliable, and everyone can validate it. Usually SLRs is the best way to start a research in a specific area because it during the journey of making the SLR, you're gonna get a lot of information and you're gonna learn about the topic, what are the recent interest point in this area and so on. So let's start first by the steps for creating SLR. So, for example, if we have a topic of 5G technology and smart vehicles, these could be our starting points for using Google Scholar to find what are the recent publications in this field and to understand in general this field and to find new questions that we can answer in this SLR. So maybe we can start so sometimes you can start the SLR without having a clear research question. What you're going to do is to have just a starting point and to read maybe 10 to 20 papers to understand what is the general direction of the research in this area. By that, you will start to create some research questions, which you will be answering them when you conduct the SLR, the whole process. So let's start first by using these keywords and see what are the results. So here I'm using the operators as well, 5G and vehicles. Okay, so these are my searching terms, and we can also make a specific range for that, 2015. Here you can see the recent publications in this field. We have Internet of Vehicles based on 5G communication, toward offloading Internet of Vehicles applications in 5G. So there has been some applications in 5G and vehicles, and it seems that since 2016 there is some work, so maybe we can find research questions about that and have our SLR in this topic. So let's first read this paper and apply what Dr. Ali said about how to read a research paper. Okay, so this paper, this is the title of the paper. I will zoom in a little bit. These are the authors. We're not gonna start with the abstract, so we're gonna just go to the introduction. Usually in the introduction, the first paragraph is just a brief introduction about the field itself. So here they just talk about what are the problems. For example, the most dominant issue with reference to increase the use of vehicles is the rising number of road accidents. So it started by giving us a problem that that why they're using IOV technology in the research world. So the second paragraph, it talks about IOV, which is Internet of Vehicles. It means that vehicles can communicate with each other and they are right now smarter than the regular cars. They can communicate with their with each other as well as with the road, so they know when there is an accident. Cars will or vehicles will tell each other to slow down, and the whole process will be much smarter without user intervention. Then this paper started to talk about the data load, as you can see here. We will notice that the first paragraph only talked about introduction, about the general topic of IOV and why IOV is important. Then it started talking about the problems, a specific problem in IOV world. Here we can see that they are bringing up the topic of 5G. So with the emergence of fifth generation, there's a high data rate transmitting capacity, which means that IOV or Internet of Vehicles can't talk with each other very fast. And there is low latency, and it seems that 5G technology is a very good solution for IOV. Then the authors start to give us some what is the exact problem that they're trying to detect or they're trying to trigger in this research work. As you can see here, they're talking about they're talking about the quality of service and the quality of experience. So it seems that there's something with the optimizing the work and increasing the quality of service. By the end of this paragraph, we will be able to understand what is the exact problem that this paper is trying to solve. After that, there is the contribution of this paper. By the way, this is the first time I read this paper, so I'm just giving you even if this paper is new, it is the standard. There is some standard for how the ideas can be revealed in the paper. They're always gonna start with a brief introduction, then a bit deeper, and then they're gonna have a full paragraph talking about the problem. So here we can see the problem. If we're interested to go deeper, we can read this paragraph, which tells us exactly what is the problem that this paper is talking about. And then the authors usually summarize what is the contributions of this paper. So what exactly they're trying to solve. By the end of the introduction section, we'll be able to identify what is the problem, what is the topic, what is the problem, what they're trying to do. And later we'll be able to find the exact solution. So here they just give us some hints about the solution, whether they will start talking in details. From the title of this section, we can see that they're talking about 5G enabled IOV system framework. So this is their solution. They're trying to explain the framework solution, the framework of their solution. And they started to do some computation as a proof for their workflow or the solution that they're providing. Usually diagrams and tables are a very great way for expressing the ideas in a faster way. So it's always encouraging to put tables and figures in papers. Okay, here are all about deeper explanation, but also another section that is good to talk to have a look at before digging deeper in the paper is the conclusion and future work. Usually they talk again about briefly about what is the paper is about and what was the problem and what was the solution that they are trying to propose. Okay. From going back to the search page that we started off, this is the paper that we have read. However, these are the 4 papers that we can start with. As you can see here, it talked about 5G, IOV. There is a term called V2X, and there's reliability mobile vehicles. From here, only from the titles of the papers, we can understand that there is a lot of keywords that we don't know. So what we're going to do is we can list down what are the questions or what are the points that we didn't really get from the titles. The more we answer these questions, the better our understanding will be for this topic. For example, what is the Internet of Vehicles? The paper that we have read didn't talk about Internet of Vehicles, but we can find other paper, for example, an overview of Internet of Vehicles, and it is well cited. Also, this is another option, and it is well cited as well. So here, just from the first search, we can have 3 papers that talked about Internet of Vehicles, and by skimming them fast, we can get ideas about what is this technology and how it has been used. Then they talked about machine learning, the same thing that we're going to do. We're going to go to Scholar, we're going to type in machine learning, and from there we will be able to understand what is machine learning and how it has been done. Excellent, we can find right now a book. Books usually give more information. It digs deeper on the concept of a certain topic, with also it gives examples. The same thing we're going to do for the second 2 questions, and we also can get more questions. By doing this process, we right now understand more about IOV. We understood also about 5G technology, and we get into a position where we can identify what are the possible research questions. However, to start doing the SLR process, we need to conduct the SLR process right from the beginning, which means that we need to have a keyword. So we need to have our keywords ready. We need to have the range ready. So we mentioned, for example, what are the keywords that we are going to use, what is the range that we are interested in, and we start using the databases that we want. For example, we can use Scholar or Scopus database if you want. Let's go to the example that we explained, which is 5G and vehicles. Specify the range. Maybe, for example, we're interested in 2015. And here we can see a bunch of papers. We have more than 10 pages, which means like around 100 papers. But how to filter them out and how to understand in an organized way what each paper is talking about and what is the contribution of every paper and so on. There's a lot of questions to ask, actually. That is why we are going to specify first what are the research questions that we're interested in. For example, we can be interested in how 5G-enabled network improved the IOV technology. So how did the new or the fastest internet currently in the world, how did it improve the IOV, Internet of Vehicles? How did machine learning help in this field? What are the disadvantages or drawbacks of 5G? Maybe there are, because if we have a very fast internet, maybe it needs a lot of computing power. Remember that we're talking about smart vehicles, which is working, it doesn't use gas, it uses electricity. So it has limited power. Maybe the faster the internet, the more power it's gonna be consumed. So just by doing the first section of research, we got these kind of questions in our mind. And we can put them also as research questions when we are reviewing the papers. And by the end of conducting the research process, we'll be able to have an answer for every question of that. Then. But to make the research organized, we need to have a certain format, which is the SLR format for searching, for extracting the data. We're going to share with you this Excel sheet, but this Excel sheet or template is very good and organized way for conducting the SLR. Just from the title of the paper or the cover page of the paper, we can get information such as what is the title, whether it's a journal conference, who was the, or where it got published, who were the authors, what was the year of publication, and a link. Also, it is important to write in your own words a small description about the paper, which talk about the general idea, because you're gonna forget. If you have 100 papers to, review, you're gonna forget what each paper talked about. So you can write in small word, in your own words, what is the description of this paper and what solution or problem it was talking about. Then you will try to answer the research questions. Let's put this aside and put this aside as well. Okay. So our first question is 5G enabled network. How 5G enabled network improved IOV. So we can take the first paper that we found and review it in details this time. Whether it answers this question, did it talk about how IOV improved the, how did IOV improve the, how did the 5G improve the IOV? Sorry. If they put any statement about that, that would be great, because that means that this paper answered this question, and we can put it in the, we can put it here in the field. We're going to do the same thing for the rest of the questions. As you can see here, we have 5. Okay. There is something else that we're going to do. It's not only by extracting information. So after we read the paper and we read it thoroughly to fill in the research questions or have answers for the research questions, what we're going to do is that we're going to evaluate the paper. So to have, to be able to evaluate the paper, we need to have a very standard evaluation system that can be applied to all the papers that we are collecting. There's something called QAR, which is a quality assessment rule. This means that we're going to put a bunch of rules and see if a certain paper answered or satisfied this rule or not. This is an example of a QAR. For example, some of them are very general, but it will help us to understand whether the paper is good enough or not. Remember that we already chose the papers that are Scopus, so we're not talking about if they are well reputed. We're talking about, do they have a good piece of information? Do they answer my questions or the research questions? Because sometimes we can find papers in 5G and vehicles, but they're not the ones that we want, or they don't really answer the questions in a good way. So the first QAR, which is very general, is are the study objectives recognized clearly? Did the paper talk about the objectives? In our example here, sorry, I'm going back and forth, but I just wanted to show you exactly if we can find or identify the answers right away from the first look. Here we can see that this paragraph talked about the contribution, and by reading it, we will understand that they mentioned what are the points of their contribution. So that means we're going to give them a 1, for example. We can also talk about general questions such as, did they talk about the strength of their mechanism? Did they talk about the limitation of their mechanism? It's just, we're trying to ask, was this paper good enough? And so on. As you can see here, there are some weights for questions. You can give them whatever you want. However, the standard way is to give a weight from 0 to 1 for every paper. And here we can see there are 10 research questions. So a good paper usually will be able to at least get 5 out of 10. So maybe this can be used as an exclusion mechanism. If papers answered at least, if one of the paper got a mark of 5 out of 10, that means it is good enough and it is acceptable. We can carry on in our research with it. So as I told you, there is a template that we're providing from University of Sharjah, and this template usually helps us in understanding the papers in a better way. So I told you about this paper, I told you about this sheet, which only has the general information about the paper, description about the paper, and an answer for every research question. Sometimes the paper didn't answer the question, so we can just put NA, and that's it. But what is the use of having this, or how we can move forward? We can also have research question. We can also have a research question in separate in a sheet, as you can see here. We can put the papers and then their types, and in details this time we're going to talk about how did this paper answer the research question, or what are the answers provided from this paper. The same thing we're going to do for the rest. But to have a better understanding, I will show you this example. If someone can confirm that they can see the slide, the Excel sheet.
We are only seeing the user manual. Do you open the Excel sheet?
Yes. Okay.
Now we can see it.
Okay, I apologize for that. Okay, so here we can see the Excel sheet. However, now it is empty. But I'm gonna I'll show you another example that is full, which can give you a better idea. Okay. So this is the start where we actually put the titles, the information about the paper, what is the description, and what are the what each paper or how each paper answered the research question, as you can see here. But to have better results from doing this research, we can do a separate tables where we actually have only the research question number 2, for example, answered. As you can see here, we're able to identify or report what was the strength and limitation for every paper in our work. But because there's almost like 40 papers or 39 papers covered in this research, it's very difficult to report all these results in this way or in this format in the paper. A better way would be to concatenate these results and put them in a presentable table. For example, you can go to every paper and try to find keywords. How many papers, for example, said that this technique enabled communication? And you can collect these papers and write their ID here. So in this way, you summarize this full table in a very small way, and which can be actually used in the research paper. I will show you another examples now. As I told you that from Excel sheet, we can raise a lot of questions, and we can also add on to the paper a lot of graphs and information. So for example, just from the years of publication of every paper, we can report what was the growth of research in this field. Here we can see the number of papers in every field, for example, and this was how the trend or the growth of research publications in the field of this study. I will show you also another example. This, for example, the table summary that I showed you. And from it, we can have a smaller table, which instead of listing limitations and strength of every paper, we only concatenate them into a single table, as you can see here, which is more presentable and could be used in the research paper event. Also, for example, if we are exploring, for example, machine learning topic, and we were trying to find the techniques used in every research paper. This could be a graph, or this could be a section on its own. What was the most important, or what was the most used machine learning technique in this field, for example? Answers could be identified very in an easy way if we use graphs, as you can see here. From the graph, for example, we understood that neural network was the one of the highest solutions in this specific problem. That's it for the technical session. We will share with you the tutorial so you can go through it by yourself and get an idea and understand the practical session. We're also going to share with you the Excel sheet so you can practically use it and start putting the information in the Excel sheet, where you're going to understand how to extract information right away from the tables. These are the assessment questions, and we're going to provide the link for the questions soon.
Thank you, Engineer Omnia, for this is very insightful and very informative practical session. Although this work, we do it in almost 6 months to 1 year to make sure that we are doing a great systematic literature review. But this 1 hour session would be a good roadmap and very brief, at least to have a good reference of how you can summarize your work. We will open the questions from the audience till we try to collect the questions. If there are any questions, I will wait from Rashid. If not, I might ask questions from my side. So do you think, Omnia, that this systematic literature review can be done, this Excel sheet can be done by one person, or is it a group work? And how you think that it is the best way to be used as a tool so that we can collect? It's impressive. You showed us that it could be up to 100 research papers to be collected in one Excel. I'm sure maybe one person is not able to collect these papers using Google Scholar and even the reputable search engines. So what is your answer for this?
It actually depends on the time. Like, for example, if one author can do this on his own, however, it will take them a lot of time to go through the publications and then do the procedure of SLR and filtering out the results and answering all the questions. But it is always better when people work in group, because it will help in speeding up the process, getting more ideas, and also retrieving good results in that.
So do you suggest putting the Excel in a place that where everybody can collect? And
yes, sure.
And
example,
in order
Google
to,
Sheets. Yeah.
okay. And what do you think they have to start with? Just collecting and using this engines to put the proper right papers, and how the filtration will be done later on?
It's always better to start by putting the papers, like going through, for example, here, just getting the paper name, the link of the paper, because if you move back and forth between the Excel sheet and the search paper or the research results page, maybe people gonna be a bit dizzy for doing this, because results every day there will be new results. However, if, for example, in one day people start to taking the relative paper, just identifying whether the paper is relative or not by from the title and the abstract, and adding them to the Excel sheet. And then from that, once the Excel sheet with the list of papers is ready, they can start to answer the research questions and the quality QR at the same time, which will, within this process, you're gonna, the author or the researcher will have a better insight whether this paper should be in the SLR or it should be excluded, or whether it was weak or good, and so on.
There is a question, Omnia, I just received. There are other databases that are used in scientific research. Why we always choose Google Scholar? It's good if you remind us again why Google Scholar, and maybe you need to refer in your user manual about these scientific databases, the most reputable ones.
Yes, sure. Google Scholar is the main one, and it has a lot of, it actually collects paper from different digital libraries. But here is a list of digital libraries that we could use in today's search. For example, Scopus, Google Scholar, Web of Science, IEEE, SEM, Elsevier, Springer. But sometimes the search in some of these databases requires access or permit to access this database. However, Google Scholar is free and open to use, and it's a good start to see at least what is the general trend and how what are the most important research areas in the specific topic, and so on.
Fair enough. Dr. Ali, تفضل.
Please just, sorry. Also, it's important to know that all of these libraries are included in Google Scholar. So anything published in Springer, for example, includes in Google Scholar. So what we say, when we say we are using Google Scholar, it's by default, I'm using IEEE, ACM, Springer, Elsevier, Taylor, add all of them. So that's why the main idea of use. But again, it's you are free to use any specific database if you have access.
Exactly. And the last question, and it could be for all of us from the audience, if we can provide links and useful references for tutorials, books, guides about the research methodologies. Yes, there are plenty of references, and we can provide you what University of Sharjah usually use in terms of the research methodology. Do you want Omnia or Dr. Ali to add to this last comment from the audience?
Yes, I mean, in general, there are several references. And again, you might see some differences, depends on the schools they teach research methodology. But the main idea, as we described here, how to define the problem methodology, this is common. Okay, but might find plenty of books. But usually we don't rely on a specific book here in the university. We rely on the slides we gave you, but maybe more explanation or more elaboration on the slides, and some case studies and examples. So this is not a course that you go and just read and learn. It's more about you practice. Start with a case study, start with a problem, conduct, and this is by practice. By the end of the course, we ask, for example, students to come up with a research proposal.
Dr. Ali, you can tell them also about the book references for the systematic literature review. And maybe we need to point out that it could be different from one domain to another. So it could be conducted differently in engineering than in medicine. If you would like to comment in this regard, please.
Yes. So also, for example, when you get systematic review, there are many methods, many methodology. There is, for example, a framework called the Prisma. This is usually medicine. They like to conduct using Prisma. On the other hand, engineering science, we follow something called Kitchenham. So I think in the workshop, Omnia can provide just the reference for Kitchenham papers about how to conduct systematic review, inshallah.
Thank you so much. And by this 2 sessions of today's research methodology workshop, we are about to end the session. Thanking everyone for being with us today, for the valuable interaction, for the excellent questions. I can see behind the screen there are potential of researchers that will be, inshallah, after this session, having some hands-on an idea and roadmap. So by this, I again thank TRA for having us to deliver this important workshop and to raise the awareness about this research, the economic of the countries based on research outcome of the country. So knowing all of these concepts and creating generation who produce high quality research, they are contributing to the economic of the countries. So I thank Dr. Ali and Engineer Omnia for being with us today and to deliver and share their high knowledge and rich experience of the research methodology from the University of Sharjah, Open UAE Research and Development Group in collaboration with the TRA. We don't mind to receive any questions. And if you would like to share your Excel sheet when you conduct any research in any topic, we will be happy to review and to comment. This is a gift from University of Sharjah to you. We will share all the materials, the PowerPoint, the Excel sheet, even the references. Also, the user manual that Omnia, she want to throw it, we will email it and the TRA Academy will be emailing it to you. Thank you so much, everyone. I wish you a pleasant day and hope to see you in the future workshops. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.